Have you ever felt like you're constantly running on a hamster wheel? You're busy, you're checking things off your to-do list, but at the end of the day, you're not really sure if you've actually moved the needle on what truly matters to you.
Oh, absolutely. It's the modern condition, isn't it? The cult of busy. We wear it like a badge of honor, but deep down, a lot of us are just tired and maybe a little lost.
Well, what if I told you there's a book, a classic that's been around for decades that offers a powerful antidote to that feeling? A book that's less about doing more and more about being more.
I'm intrigued. And knowing you, Sam, this isn't some fly-by-night self-help fad. This is something with some serious substance.
You know it. Today on You Are What You Read, we are diving deep into a book that has sold over 40 million copies worldwide and has fundamentally changed the way people approach their personal and professional lives. We're talking about Stephen Covey's monumental work, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
The big one. I feel like everyone's heard of it, but not everyone has truly unpacked it. This is going to be good. So if you've ever wondered how to trade in that feeling of frantic busyness for a sense of profound effectiveness, you're in the right place. Stick with us as we break down these 7 game-changing habits.
All right, Jane, let's jump right in. Before we even get to the habits themselves, Covey lays this really important foundation. He talks about the difference between what he calls the character ethic and the personality ethic.
Right, and this is so crucial. The personality ethic is all about the quick fixes, right? The smooth talking techniques, the positive thinking without the groundwork. It's the icing on the cake, but without the actual cake.
Exactly. And the character ethic, which is what the 7 habits are built on, is the cake itself. It's about cultivating core principles like integrity, humility, and courage. It's about who you are, not just what you do.
So this isn't a list of life hacks. This is a fundamental shift in how you see the world and your place in it, a paradigm shift, as Covey would say.
Precisely. And that brings us to the very first habit, which is the gateway to all the others. Habit 1, be proactive.
This one sounds simple, but it's so profound. It's the difference between being the driver of your life and just being a passenger. A proactive person takes responsibility for their choices and their responses.
Think about it in everyday terms. A reactive person blames the traffic for being late. A proactive person leaves earlier because they anticipate the traffic. A reactive person gets angry when it rains on their picnic. A proactive person checks the weather and has a backup plan.
And Covey introduces this powerful concept of the circle of influence versus the circle of concern. Our circle of concern includes all the things we worry about: the global economy, what other people think of us, the weather. But our circle of influence is much smaller. It's the things we can actually do something about.
Highly effective people focus their energy on their circle of influence. They work on themselves, their skills, their relationships. And what's amazing is that as they do this, their circle of influence starts to expand.
It's so empowering. It's about realizing that between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a space. And in that space lies your power to choose.
And once you've embraced that power of choice, you're ready for habit 2, begin with the end in mind.
I love this one. Covey asks us to imagine our own funeral. Morbid, I know, but stick with us. What would you want your family, your friends, your colleagues to say about you?
It's a powerful thought experiment because it forces you to define what's truly important to you. What kind of person do you want to be? What do you want to achieve? What values do you want to live by?
This is where the idea of a personal mission statement comes in. It's like your personal constitution. It's a set of principles that guide your decisions and actions. It's your why.
And it's not something you write once and forget about. It's a living document that you can revisit and refine throughout your life. It's your North Star. Without it, you can be incredibly busy, climbing the ladder of success, only to realize when you get to the top that your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall.
That is a terrifying thought, and it happens all the time. People chase success as defined by society, only to find it hollow and unfulfilling. Beginning with the end in mind is about defining your own version of success.
So you're proactive, you know where you're going. What's next? Habit 3, put first things first. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is about execution.
And it's not just about time management, it's about self-management. Covey gives us this brilliant time management matrix. It divides our tasks into 4 quadrants based on 2 factors: urgency and importance.
Let's break that down. Quadrant 1 is for tasks that are both urgent and important. Crises, pressing problems, deadlines. This is where most of us live in a state of constant firefighting.
Quadrant 3 is for tasks that are urgent but not important. Think of many emails, some meetings, other people's minor issues. They scream for our attention, but they don't contribute to our long-term goals. This is the quadrant of deception.
Quadrant 4 is the land of time wasters, tasks that are neither urgent nor important. Mindless scrolling, busy work, you name it. The quadrant of waste.
And then there's the magic quadrant, quadrant 2. These are the activities that are important but not urgent. Things like building relationships, long-term planning, exercise, learning new skills, and proactive work.
This is the heart of effective personal management. Highly effective people spend most of their time in quadrant 2. They're planning, preparing, and preventing crises from happening in the first place.
It takes discipline to say no to the urgent but not important things in quadrant 3 and to carve out time for the important but not urgent things in quadrant 2. But that's where true effectiveness lies.
These first 3 habits, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first, are what Covey calls the private victory. They're about self-mastery. They move you from a state of dependence on others to independence.
And once you've achieved that private victory, you're ready to move into the public square and work effectively with others. This is where the next 3 habits come in. They're all about interdependence.
And that brings us to habit 4. Think win-win. This is a huge paradigm shift for many of us who have been raised in a competitive win-lose world.
Right. We're often taught that for me to win, you have to lose. But Covey argues that in the long run, this is a terrible model for relationships and for life. Win-lose situations often result in 2 losers in the end because of the damage to the relationship.
Think win-win is a mindset that seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions. It's about believing that there's plenty for everyone, what he calls an abundance mentality. It's not about being nice or about compromise where everyone loses something. It's about collaboration and creativity to find a third alternative that's better than what either of you could have come up with on your own.
Covey also talks about other paradigms like lose-win, where you're a doormat, and lose-lose, which is the philosophy of a highly dependent person who wants to bring everyone down with them.
But win-win is the only truly sustainable model for interdependent relationships. And if you can't find a win-win solution, Covey says the best alternative is no deal. You agree to disagree agreeably.
I love that. It takes a lot of courage and integrity to walk away from a deal that isn't going to be a win for both sides.
So how do we get to these win-win solutions? That leads us directly to habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood.
This is probably the single most important principle of interpersonal communication. And it's so rare. Most of us don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply.
We're either speaking or preparing to speak. We're filtering everything we hear through our own experiences, our own biases. We're diagnosing before we've even understood the problem.
Covey talks about empathic listening. This isn't just about active listening, where you're mimicking what the other person is saying. It's about getting inside another person's frame of reference. You're trying to see the world the way they see it, to understand how they feel.
And only after you have truly understood the other person's perspective are you in a position to be understood yourself. When people feel understood, they become much more open to your ideas and your perspective.
It's about building what Covey calls an emotional bank account. Every interaction is either a deposit or a withdrawal. Things like keeping promises, being kind, and listening with empathy are huge deposits. Breaking promises, being disrespectful, and not listening are major withdrawals.
And a high balance in that emotional bank account is what allows you to navigate the challenges in any relationship.
So we're thinking win-win, and we're seeking first to understand what happens when we bring all of this together.
We get to habit 6, Synergize. This is the habit of creative cooperation. It's the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. 1 + 1 = 3, or 10, or 100.
Synergy is what happens when people with different perspectives come together in a spirit of trust and cooperation to create something new and better than what any of them could have done alone. It's about valuing the differences in others.
Instead of seeing someone with a different opinion as a threat, a synergistic person sees them as an opportunity. They think, you see things differently than I do. I value that. Help me see what you see.
This is the opposite of groupthink, where everyone just agrees to avoid conflict. Synergy thrives on respectful disagreement. It's about having the humility to admit that you don't have all the answers and the courage to seek out different perspectives.